Hi, I'm Daniel Andrews, owner and creator of the DAN Show. And hey, man, happy Friday. It's been a great week. Hopefully you've had a great week. And welcome to my breakdown of the Cleveland Browns. Now, if you're new to my channel, I've got one simple question for you. Do you want to talk football? Because if so, you're in the right place. There's this button right around here. See it, see it, see it. Bam! Hit that button. Become one of the greatest people on planet Earth. Now, here's how I'm going to break down the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to start off and talking about what I like about the Cleveland Browns. Then I'm going to talk about what I don't like, but stick around to the very end where I break down the Vegas over-under and if I am going to put action down on the Browns. So let's start with what I like about the Cleveland Browns. All right, the first thing I like about the Cleveland Browns is the lack of hype. Do you remember last year at this time? I kept on seeing on social media that Browns fans were talking about 12-4, winning the North, going to the playoffs. They're a Super Bowl team. People were losing their goddamn mind in Cleveland, and Browns fans were just going nuts about how great of a team they were. And I kept on saying, why don't you slow down? You haven't even had a winning season since the Revolutionary War. So why don't you slow down on all this hype? But bottom line, this year, the hype train has been put on derailment, and that's a good thing. And I think it's a good thing for both the team and the fans, because this is a very talented team. This team on paper could be better than last year's team, but the fact that the expectations aren't out of control, I think is really good for this team. So that's the number one thing I like. The second thing I like about the Cleveland Browns is they had a fantastic draft. They got in Jedrick Wills, the number one tackle. And I actually thought that if Wills was available, you may want to trade up for him. The Browns did the smart thing. They drafted at 10. They stayed at 10 and got the best left tackle. He was my number one left tackle. So, and this is a plug and play guy. This is a guy you instantly insert into your offense and instantly become better. He will help your offensive line immensely. Now, remember, Jonah Williams for Cincinnati was drafted in the first round at a spot 11. He got injured, was out for the whole year. It did affect the team. Injuries are an odd thing, but in college, he had zero injury problems. As far as I know, played every single game, even as a freshman. So there shouldn't be that issue, but injuries are an unusual thing. Day one starter, fantastic pick. But look at the second round, you get Grant Telpit. I mean, if you look at his junior film in 2018, people are saying he was going to be a top 10 pick. I kept on hearing that he was given around a third round grade this year, second or third round grade. But the one thing that stands out if you watch LSU at all is this guy's a plus athlete. And when you play at LSU or any SEC school and you're a plus athlete on film, that's a good sign. I mean, that's a really good sign. So he really stood out. Getting him in the second round, I thought was brilliant, because you pair him up with Greedy Williams, get a pair of LSU guys in that secondary. Keep in mind, you already got Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, LSU alums. I like the fact that you get a national championship team and bring a player from that national championship team into Cleveland, a team that is a perennial losing franchise. That's big. So I really like that. But I'm not going to talk about every single draft pick, but every single player in this draft was a good pick. Even their last one, Donovan Peoples-Jones, if you don't know his story, he was the number one receiver coming out of high school. He was higher ranked than Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, and he just didn't have a good college career. The last pick in the draft that Cleveland uses, they use him on Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's a great pick. That's a great pick to end the draft. So great job, Cleveland, on your draft. Third thing I like about the Cleveland Browns is they made some really good moves in the offseason. Getting Austin Hooper and Jack Conklin in free agency, these are good moves. Conklin's going to be your day one starter on your right side. I already talked about Jedrick Wills. So your offensive line, massive improvements. And then what do you do when you have a young quarterback? You give him, he's not going to be the number one option on this team with these two receivers, but This is a guy on 3rd and 7 that can get you that first down. Austin Hooper is a valuable pickup, especially when you have a young quarterback who's developing. And I'm going to talk about the development here in a little bit. But bottom line, here you are, getting a pass receiving tight end for a young quarterback is smart. Adrian Claiborne, he's another player I'm very high on. Plus, they have some one-year deals with former first-round picks in the secondary. You get Carl Joseph and Kevin Johnson. These were former first-round picks that didn't work in other places, but getting them on one-year deals is very smart. They play well, you extend them. You don't, you get rid of them. And the best part is that you have other players in the secondary. I just mentioned Grant Delpit, so if Carl Joseph doesn't work out, you got Delpit, I'm sorry. So I like what they did in the offseason. Fourth and final thing I really like about the Cleveland Browns is they have the best 1-2 punch in football. By the way, Nick Chubb should have won the NFL rushing title. You know, the reason why he didn't is because Derrick Henry, the last game, in order to win the rushing title, ran for 700 yards. So now I'm exaggerating, but bottom line, if Derrick Henry played first and then Nick Chubb played later in the day, Nick Chubb would be the rushing leader. And the thing is, though, if you name top 5 running backs in football going into 2021, I think Nick Chubb's not even on the list. Maybe he's 5th. Here's the guy who should have been the rushing leader, and people are not talking about this kid. It's funny because I remember when he was a true freshman at Georgia and Todd Gurley got hurt and Nick Chubb came in, I was telling people, I think this Chubb kid's better than Todd Gurley, who was a Heisman candidate, may have won the Heisman if he didn't get hurt. And people were telling me I was nuts. People were telling me I was wrong. And I really believe that. I was watching Chubb, and I'm like, I think this guy's better than Gurley. Nick Chubb is good, but here you go. You got Kareem Hunt. Both these guys are decent receivers. Hunt actually had one more reception, 37 receptions, than Chubb, who had 36. Who's going to really thrive in this West Coast scheme? Hunt's an excellent receiver. You know, played 8 games, 37 catches. You know, if you double that, you know, he could have had, 74. Did my math wrong. That's a lot of catches. But bottom line, here you go. You have a running back who probably should have won the rushing title, and his backup's a Pro Bowl running back that they're going to use and is really going to excel in this offense. So bottom line, is there a better 1-2 punch in football? No, there's not. And that's kind of unusual to say for the Cleveland Browns, but they have the best running back duo in football. So just to recap, the things that I like about the Cleveland Browns is I love the lack of hype. This is good not only for the team, but it's really good for the fans. This is smart. The second thing, of course, was they had an A+ draft. What a great job. Several players. And then, like I said, Donovan Peoples-Jones with the sixth round pick. If he pans out, wow, you get a superstar in the 6th round. How great is that? Good offseason, some really smart offseason moves that we haven't seen the Browns make in the past. They made this year. I thought they made some really good additions. And last and not least, I think that they have the number 1 running back duo in football. Now, what I don't like about the Cleveland Browns. First thing I dislike is I really thought Ron Rivera should have got this job. Steve Wilkes, the defensive coordinator, who ended up being replaced this offseason, was the former defensive coordinator in Carolina before getting the head coaching job in Arizona. And if you hired Ron Rivera, you probably would have been able to keep Steve Wilkes as defensive coordinator, and this would have provided continuity. Plus, you bring in a head coach with some head coaching experience. Instead, and Kevin Stefanski may be a great hire, don't get me wrong, he's a former offensive coordinator who's never been a head coach before. Does this sound familiar? The answer is it should, because that's exactly what you had last year in Freddie Kitchens, who you fired. So doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, I didn't think that was a smart idea. You could have hired somebody who's a veteran coach. You could have been able to keep some continuity. Instead, you did the same exact thing you did last year where you fired the guy. So I wasn't a fan of that. Second thing I don't like is this is one of the worst, if not the worst, franchises. And it goes from owner to front office. I can tell you this, there's not 15 general managers better than John Dorsey. Everybody thought that getting Odell Beckham, this was a super move. This is a great move. He helped really add a lot of talent to this team, and there's a lot of great moves that he did. Then you move on from him. Look, again, everything may be working out great for the Cleveland Browns, but there's not 15 better general managers than John Dorsey. And the simple fact that you just have a rotating door and head coach and general managers is bad. I mean, here you are, you have your franchise quarterback finally. He's entering his third season with his fourth new head coach. You got to have some continuity somewhere. So hopefully you got everything right. But so far, what they've done is just bad. And they follow the same patterns. They don't try to switch it up and do something different. It's really hard to go against this. Third thing I really don't like is the Myles Garrett deal. Now, I remember watching Myles Garrett in Texas A&M, and I remember thinking he looks a lot like Von Miller. He actually looks like a more athletic version of Von Miller. He's not been the same player. He's been a great player when he's able to play, but considering he just got back from suspension and you reward him with this record deal, now, if he's a MVP candidate or a defensive MVP candidate, then great job, Cleveland. But, you know, I just talked about a new head coach, new defensive coordinator, new front office, and you instantly reward this guy who has nothing to do with either one of these things, this type of contract. Why roll the dice so early on Myles Garrett? I mean, I don't understand why you had to do it now. Why couldn't you do it at the end of the year? Now, maybe you save a few bucks, but this is just an example of bad behavior in a poorly run franchise. I don't get it, because bottom line, if he makes another mistake like this, he's gone for good, most likely. I mean, he missed 5 games last year, and you have to realize that he has to be on his best behavior. Is he going to be able to play the same? How's he going to do when he comes back? Instead, you give him all this money. I'm a little baffled by the timing. Fourth thing I don't like is that the hype train's not on the same, not going the same way that it was last year. But what are expectations? I mean, what does this coaching team and general manager need to do this year so that they can keep their jobs? Which realistically, what are you thinking? 6 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins? The Vegas over-under, which I'm going to get to in just a minute here, is 8.5. I mean, you got a quarterback who's entering his third year with his fourth new head coach, and if he gets fired, maybe it's his fifth. I mean, with the lack of continuity, what are the expectations? I'm not hearing all the stupid things I heard last year, but realistically, if the Browns go 7-9, are we going to get the same thing that we got with everybody being gone again? With the talent that you have, a 7-win team should be doable. But so I'm a little confused by what's supposed to happen here with the Cleveland Browns this year in order for everybody to keep their job, because this has been a rotating door. The talent's there, but without mini camps, without OTAs, what are the expectations? Bottom line, you don't know. So just to recap what I don't like about the Cleveland Browns. Number one, I think they made a mistake in the head coaching hire. I really thought Ron Rivera would have been perfect for this job. You could have kept Steve Dilks as defensive coordinator. You could have kept some continuity. Instead, you do the same exact thing you did last year when you hired Freddie Kitchen. You hired a former offensive coordinator who's never been a head coach. And normally when teams hire a offensive guy, they'll go with a defensive guy. Or if they go with an experienced coach who it doesn't work out, they go inexperienced coach. Not Cleveland. Ownership, front office, this has consistently been one of the worst run franchises in football, and they keep making the same types of mistakes. There's no really changes. So that does bother me. The Myles Garrett contract, I don't understand the timing. Did he really deserve it? The talent's there. Did he really deserve it, though? I mean, is he the best player? Is this an Aaron Donald type game changer? You should have waited. And then what are the expectations for Browns fans this year? So what I say hold off to the end, and I will break down the Vegas over-under. And if I am going to put action down on the Cleveland Browns, the over-under is 8.5. And the over is -120, which means you have to wager $120 to win 100. The under is even money, so whatever you bet, you will win. The schedule is actually kind of favorable. There are some wins, and there's some wins early in the season for this team. There's I'm looking at the home opener against Cincinnati, and right after that, Washington. There's a good chance that they're not going to win in Baltimore, but there's a good chance that this team could start off 2-1. But 8.5 means you got to get the 9. And bottom line, the talent's there to win 9 games. Okay, let's be very clear. The talent's there, but are they really? Do you really think they're going to win 9 games? I don't. There is nothing about this team that screams stability, that they're run correctly. You got a new coach who's just going to take some time. You have to have some continuity, which they don't have. I don't see any way the Browns get the 9 wins this year, but they're doing everything right. If this was another franchise that made these same decisions, that had this same talent, and had an offensive coordinator coming, who didn't have any experience, I'd say, 9's possibility. Not with this franchise. Am I going to put action down on Cleveland? I'm leaning towards it. I'm kind of on the fence. Betting against Cleveland is probably a smart move, but what has me leaning against putting action on Cleveland is that there is talent. If you're somebody who's putting action on the over, I would love to hear from you. Please drop me a comment below. More than likely, right now I'm on the fence, but more than likely I will put action. I'm definitely taking under. I don't see a way Cleveland gets 9 wins this year, even though they have the talent. So listen, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Share this video with your friends. Help this channel grow. It means the absolute world to me. And if you want to talk football, let's talk football. Drop a comment below, or just simply shoot me an email at thedanshow@yahoo.com. Have a great weekend. Monday, I will break down the New York Jets. So have a fantastic weekend. I will see you Monday.